Hello everyone, it's Yuvi here with another TouchDesigner tutorial. In this tutorial, we're gonna look at this system, which is an audio reactive system, and it's generating those nice swirls. So I'm not gonna build the system from scratch, but I'm gonna show you the steps and everything, which is important. So let's start. In general, I'm using the same technique that I used for the last two tutorials, which is basically manipulating the z-axis of a grid of points. You can see it over here also. So it's mainly focusing about creating the texture that will be the blue channel and also z-axis. So this is the end, and this is the texture that I'm connecting into reorder to make it for the blue channel. So the system is starting with a feedback loop, which is over here. This feedback loop I've created many times for the last tutorials, but I'm changing a bit the parameters and more stuff. But in general, what I did here is I just generated this noisy, ugly texture, which doesn't look very nice, or maybe it is, but it's very noisy with a lot of details. And yeah, so I took this texture and I put it inside another feedback loop, which is over here. And this is basic what's taking this texture and creating those kind of swirls and other stuff from it. So I'm gonna show you a quick system, how to build a quick system that basically generate those swirls, and it's very simple and easy feedback loop. So let me just show you this, because this is the base of this feedback loop, and on top of that I've added more stuff. So we can grab basically any texture, but let's just put the noise and just change the resolution to like 1080 by 1080 and pixel format to 32-bit float. So grab a null and just call it like input. And what we want to do is basically displace this noise. So I'm gonna grab a displace, um, and I want to grab another noise that will basically be in the second uh, input of the displace. So let me just grab this noise and take the input, put it here so it will have the same resolution. Um, yeah, and this noise has these parameters, okay, and in the output just make it noise. And after, we need to calculate the slope, and just connect it into the displace, and nothing happens. But if we put a feedback top and just drag the displace into the feedback, it will start displacing it, as you see. And what's important in the slope and the displace, it's the channels that are you're displacing with. So here I'm displacing with the red as horizontal and the blue as vertical. So this is in the slope. So in the displace, I also need to make it horizontal source red and vertical source blue. And also the source midpoint needs to be, if it's 0.5 here, it needs to be also 0.0 here. like the 0 point should be 0.5, or you can make it 0 here and 0 here. So if I pause the feedback, you can see this. But after a while, those the displays will basically make it fade to one color. So to maintain the movement, we just take the input and add it into the feedback loop over here with an over, like this, and reduce the opacity here. So in each frame, it's adding the source, basically the input. So it's continuing basically the movement forever. And then if we want to calculate the like we need to make the swirls by calculating the perpendicular vectors of the slope. So for this we can use like this channel mix, that it's basically kind of like a rotation matrix or translation matrix, if you're familiar with this. uh, so we have this matrix and we can basically rotate the vectors 90 degrees to calculate the perpendicular vectors. So we're doing it with the blue and red channels. So blue should be -1 over here and 0 here, and the red should be 0 over here. Then we get those nice swirls. So basically what we're doing is we're multiplying the blue channel with -1. uh, it's very simple. And of course you can play with the strength, and it will move faster, and play with this noise also. uh, Maybe less harmonics. uh, yeah, something like this. So yeah, you can get very nice results. um, so after this, what I did is I just tried to play a bit and put some other stuff inside the feedback, like edge and comp over input. And you can see if I grab a level and I make the gamma a bit lower, so you can see maybe the strength to 1. So this edge makes those kind of like nice small stuff, I don't know, bubbles. uh, and you can also blur it a bit, um, and it's also making a lot of very nice movements. And yeah, so this is like the base of this feedback loop, and I've added a couple more stuff. um, and of course I made it audio reactive. So you can see this is the input and the noise and the slope, the channel mix and the displays and the feedback. So it's the same kind of feedback loop with more stuff, which I'm taking the audio reactive and mapping it to some stuff over here, all the parameters. So mostly it's like crossing between um, stuff, like for example, crossing between the slope and the channel mix. So sometimes when the kick hits, it's like um, the perpendicular vectors, and when it's not, it's just like without the perpendicular. Here I'm compositing this with the input and also crossing it with the kick also. but this time I'm taking it and triggering it with like a trigger to control like the peak length and to make it as I want. Here also cross between the edge and the blur, so sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not. And here I'm also compositing it with the input and also with the cross controlling when it's on and off. Here for example, I'm taking the low and I want to like it's the low frequencies, and you see it's like from minus something to zero. So I want to map it between 0 and 1. So I've got this component that basically calculates the minimum and maximum. So then I can manually, not manually, like automatically remap it to whatever I want. Um, yeah, and basically I'm mapping also the kick to the pulse of each feedback. So this one and this one. So every time the kick hits, it's like pulsing it, and I like it very much like this effect. So about the audio reactive stuff, I'm just putting an audio file in, and I'm using the audio analysis, which give you a bunch of like stuff here, low, mid, high, kick, snare, rhythm, but I'm selecting only the kick and snare and the low. Also here, calculating like the level, the amplitude of the signal. So I'm adding the two channels with the math and calculating the power, RMS power, filtering it a bit, renaming it to the level. Um, from here I have this nice component that basically counts the kick and the snare, and also the kick and the snare together. So every time the kick or a snare hits, it's counting it. Um, so at the end I have this bunch of channels that I can basically uh, export to anything that I want. So this kick snare count, it's very useful if you want to animate like a simple noise. So it's like the apps time dot seconds in a way. You just put it here and it will move according to the music, kind of the rhythm mostly. And of course you can multiply it by zero point 0.2 for example to make it a bit more slower, but it will still move according to the music. Yeah, and for the render, it's like the same render I'm using for most of my visuals. Um, you can of course play with the light and move it around, and also the bloom, the luma blur to I like to like blur the edges a bit, gives me more depth. And of course this rotate too, you can take this noise and basically bypass it. So uh, the boxes that I'm instancing will be rotated nicely to their like uh, vectors, that the way they turn around, the way they move around basically. So it gives like a more smooth texture, and with the PBR you can also make it a bit more metallic and shiny. Uh, so yeah, I guess this is it. You can play around and map any other parameter from the audio reactive, and also maybe play around with this feedback loop to create more stuff. Add some more tops like ramps and edge and whatever you feel like, and try to see how it reacts. Um, yeah, hope you like it and have a nice day. Hope you will use it and create nice audio reactive stuff. Bye bye, have a nice day.